In 1968, the Olympics were held in Mexico City. Athletes in some events did exceptionally well, but many athletes in longer distance and endurance events didn't do well at all. For instance, the 10K event was dominated by a Kenyan. The current world record holder at the time was an Australian. Running at the same event, he collapsed at the end of the race and was unconscious for more than 10 minutes. The difference, it turned out, was the altitude these athletes were training at. Mexico City is at an elevation of 7,350 feet. The Australian trained at a little over sea level. But the Kenyan trained in a mountain valley in Africa at over 10,000 feet. The Kenyan had developed many more red blood cells during his training to compensate for the lower oxygen level at 10,000 feet. The red blood cells provided the additional oxygen needed to compete at a world-class level in Mexico City. Boulder, Colorado, where many of these athletes now train and often live, is just down the road from me. So, although I hadn't planned on it, by running on these roads and trails right in my neighborhood, I'm engaging in some high altitude training just like the elite athletes. I can't prove that my training time is faster due to my training location, but all the scientific studies indicate that it sure doesn't hurt. This is Fort Hill. It runs straight up from 7,200 feet in altitude to 8,000 feet. It was named for the Model T Fords, which had to back up the hill in the early 20th century in order to provide fuel for their engines, which didn't have any fuel pumps at the time. In other words, it's pretty steep. When I first started running in this area, reaching the top of Fort Hill was not even a dream. I would struggle up a little way, run out of breath, and when my legs started burning, have to turn around and go back downhill and do that over and over again. So I set myself a goal one summer to run a little farther up the hill over and over until I had mastered it. That was many years ago now, but although I'm slower than I used to be, I can still run this hill about once a week. You've probably heard it many times, but I'm living proof that setting a series of manageable steps to reach what seems like an impossible goal really does work. My training plan is working pretty well so far. I've slowly been increasing my distance run and the reps on my strength exercises. And best of all, no injuries yet. When I was younger, this may have been at the point where I would start to feel a little cocky and start thinking my progress has been too slow and I could pick up the pace faster. But although my memory isn't what it used to be, I can still clearly remember my damaged tendon popping out from nowhere last year and months of rehab that followed. I think that I'll continue to take it slow and take a little time to reminisce over all the great memories running has given me. 3 months until my half marathon in a big game preserve in South Africa. Thanks for training with me. Ouch, painful update. I've just run 2 long runs in the last 2 weeks, and both have ended in very, very sore soles of my feet. I'm not quite sure what's wrong, but I'm going to have to find out pretty quick because I'm going to have to run a lot farther than that when I go to South Africa. Stay tuned.